All right, we're down in the bowels at Three Pond Road. You guys want to introduce yourselves?
Sure, I'm Gregg, Cademartori, the Planning Director.
I'm Gemma Wilkins. I'm Sustainability Coordinator for the city.
What do we call this? The City Hall Annex?
City Hall Annex.
City Hall Annex. And if you haven't been here, it's just off of Pond Road. And there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes right here.
Sure.
Like the nuts and bolts of the city. This is where it happens. Less of the politics and more of the nuts and the bolts, which is very interesting. We're here to talk about the Gloucester Community Electricity Aggregation Program, which I think is very, very important to talk about, mainly because it's real money. We're not talking about tens of dollars or twenties of dollars. We're talking about hundreds of dollars per household. That if it stays in our community's pockets, chances are it may filter back through our community, and it's one of those things that trickle down, like Reagan said, trickle down economics. But you guys want to talk about how it all works?
Sure. And if people aren't familiar with the program, it's been around for quite some time. It was initially approved by the Department of Public Utilities for communities to start looking at aggregating their electrical accounts so that they can essentially create a buying block. So back in 2016 was the first time the administration and prior city council enabled us to move into that phase of trying to bid for electricity supply for the community. It's really attractive to suppliers because they're looking at the potential for 10,000 plus accounts to be basically signed on as customers. So it took a little bit of time to get it going because we partnered with a company called Good Energy, who is an aggregator. So they assist with going out to the suppliers to get the best bid for the community. So we actually entered into our first contract, a 3-year contract, in 2018. And so that performed pretty well. And then this past spring, or last spring, we conducted another one. So we're in just about the end of year 1 of another 3-year contract that'll end in 2014. So we've had very favorable rates, and the reason why we kind of started doing a little bit more plugging this fall was when we learned of what the rates were going to do from National Grid.
Right. I think it was over a 50% rate hike, right? 51%.
Yeah, it's a pretty big jump. They're up to about 33 cents now.
Right. So now to really simplify it, now if you do nothing and you're not part of a electricity aggregation program, because they're out there, then you're going to be paying 33 cents or something like that. But you have the opportunity with literally 30 seconds of internet. You log on to www.gloucester-cea.com. You just have your electricity bill with you. The information is on that bill that you need. Click a few buttons, and you you'll be approved to get into a program that is instead of paying 33 cents a kilowatt hour, you're paying what?
So the default rate is around 11 cents, but there are 2 other options. You can opt to a basic rate, which is less than 11 cents, down 10 and change cents per kilowatt hour. And then if you want to also upgrade and want to support renewable energy, there's a 100% product that's around 14.9 cents. So even still, you're beating National Grid by half.
Yeah, by a considerable amount. So anywhere from way over half of savings to still beating it by half. That's real money. It's considering some people right now have an $800 electricity bills and plus. So when I tell you I did it for my business, I did it for my home, and it was less than a minute. Just make sure you have your electricity bill with you and and it's very straight, not complicated at all. Very straightforward. So So would you like to speak to some of the numbers of how much money this is putting back into our community?
Sure. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
So, as many people have felt on their bill, the national grid rate went up to about 33 cents per kilowatt hour. For most Gloucester residents, they are opted into the about 11 cent per kilowatt hour rate. So in total, since that rate went up, in the 3 months since that rate went up, that saved the city as a whole about $3.5 million. So, that's money that's staying here in the community. To make it a little bit more tangible for the average residential customer, it saved them.
Wait, I want to hammer this home.
Yes, yeah.
$3.5 million. When you say to Gloucester, this is savings on individual residents in their pockets.
It would be residents and business
And
accounts.
businesses. No,
Yeah.
but like on your account. This didn't go to the
Yes.
city of Gloucester.
No.
This is you personally, because we can't speak to the ego, because that's what makes people act.
Yes.
This is like your individual bill. $3.5 million is staying in our community if
Yes.
you take advantage of this program. Well, it already has, and with the potential, if you haven't done it, to expand that number.
Yes, and to make that a little bit more tangible for an individual residential customer, so like somebody's home or apartment, they were saving in that 3 months about $350. For a small business customer, they were saving about $500. Large businesses could have been saving even more, but those are sort of the more tangible ones that you can think about, right? That's real money.
Real
that people
money.
are not having to send to the utility, basically.
You can afford to buy eggs at that point.
Maybe.
Everybody wants to talk about
Depends
eggs.
on the price of eggs.
Everybody wants to talk about eggs, but they go to Starbucks, they get a $5 latte, but they're worried about those eggs. Everybody's gonna have a heart attack about the eggs.
You could get a latte with that.
You can get a latte with all that money. But I'm gonna keep saying this, and I'll put when we do the blog post to add to this, I'll have the link so you can just click on it. But www.gloucester-cea.com. That's the website. If you have your National Grid bill with you, I promise you it'll take you less than a minute to do, and you will get these savings as well. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to keep hammering that home.
And I should say, right, so I definitely get calls in from folks who are not interested in going online. You can also call. There's a call center that you can call. It's 24 hours a day. And sometimes there's a little bit of a wait. You can give them a number and they'll call you back. But for those people who don't want to go online and fill out that form, the number is 833-942-3018. Basically what they'll do is they'll sign you up. They ask you the same questions that are on the form online, and you can do it that way.
There you go. There's a lot of people that'll be helpful for, I'm sure. Are there any other? So when you enroll in the Gloucester, so there's 3 different options: the local green product, and then there's one that's at the middle one.
That's the default product.
That's the default product,
And then you
there's
can opt to, have basically a supply that's very similar to what's provided by National Grid. That currently is down around 10 cents a kilowatt. So
yeah,
it's quite a deal.
that is really a deal.
So we were definitely kind of bracing for this when they announced the rates. The good news is because we're in our second contract, we've always hovered around between 9 and up to 11,000 customers that were already in the program. So, there's always somebody to be reached. There's a lot of different products and things that come through the mail, and sometimes people don't realize they're signing up for things. So it is really important to double check and look at your bills to see what you're enrolled in. If somebody can get a better rate with another provider, that's great. This has just been provided as another option, and it's worked out really well.
Yeah, I would say for sure. Are there any other programs that you'd like to speak about?
Yeah, so, there's all kinds of things out there to save people money on their electricity bills. So obviously this program is specifically geared towards your rate. But there's also the Gloucester Energy Challenge that's trying to connect people with Mass Save. I think a lot of people in Gloucester know about Mass Save and have taken advantage already, but there's all kinds of rebates and incentives. And I think we were talking about earlier, right? So every National Grid customer is essentially paying into this pot of money. So on your National Grid bill, you'll see a little charge for energy efficiency. So, this is money that's available to Gloucester residents to do things like upgrade your insulation, have somebody come in and do air sealing, get new appliances, and the big one right now is update your heating system. Specifically, they're really incentivizing electrifying your heating system with heat pumps or mini splits, people often call them. So the best way to start with that is call to have somebody come out and do a no-cost home energy assessment. We've partnered with HomeWorks Energy, but you can also call directly to Mass Save, or there's other home performance contractors that do that. But someone from HomeWorks, if you go with them, will basically come out. They look around your home, they look in your attic, they look in your basement, and they tell you tips on how you can save energy, as well as what are all of those benefits, right? What would they recommend, and what are all of the rebates and incentives that are available to cover the cost of that?
When I bought my house with my wife, my beautiful wife Kate, we did it. I think anyone that hasn't done it, you're crazy. But I'll give you a first person example. They came in. They insulated our house, and they don't pay for 100% of it. I think and I could be wrong. It's like 90% of it. It's like a $8,000 job, and $1,000 out of pocket. And they'll do the calculations and with what you're paying, and say this is going to pay itself back in 2 or 3 years, or some crazy number. They also built a little box, because a lot of people in our community have the attic doors, and they're like a 1/4-inch plywood is all between the pull down, right? The classic pull down, and a lot of people have those, and you pull those things, and it's a 1/4 inch. There's no insulation on top of that. They built a box that goes around there. I know there's a lot of heat loss in those can lights. What do you call it? Recessed lighting. Yeah. Like there's like when they do the scan with the heat loss scan of your home, it shows like literally a funnel of heat just escaping through these huge gaps in this recessed lighting. So there's so many ways to mitigate heat loss in your home, and these programs that, again, if you have an electric bill, everybody in the state is paying for it. On that line item, it's the energy efficiency charge. When you go to sign up for the aggregation program, look at it. You'll see that you're paying in on it. Now, this is very important. I want you to listen very carefully. Don't tell anyone in any other communities about this program, because we want all the money. We want more buckets of money to come into Gloucester for our residents. I'm just joking, but you really, it's up to us to just. It's a phone call. They come out and there's. I remember they gave us these. We had old school thermostats, and they put thermostats on. Replaced all the thermostats.
Yeah, and they'll actually do that right. So when somebody comes out, they'll bring with them, power, high efficiency power strips. They'll bring out faucet upgrades and water saving devices, right, that they'll install right there for you. So even if you just do the home energy assessment to find out information and you don't go forward with anything, I think it's worthwhile. You can do one every 2 to 3 years about. So if you want to do one now, kind of get some information for yourself, see what for multifamily and for moderate income customers and for low income customers, it's actually a 100% rebate on insulation. 75% for single family general income customers.
Are there also programs where they have, and this is where I'm ignorant, so I want you to help me along with correct me when I say something wrong, and I probably will. Windows, do they help out with the cost of windows, or do they give you low interest loans on the windows, or is that a completely different program?
So
yeah, windows are always tough because they are typically providing you a scope of services of different things that you can do, and then ideally everyone would love to be able to see that it pays back in a year or two. I think it's just that barrier of cost of windows that you typically don't get the return, so it's not something that's usually they go for the things that are going to have the biggest impact on your home.
Okay. I think what we hear a lot also from folks is that insulation and also air sealing. So air sealing is making sure that those gaps around your windows are filled in. makes a big difference in terms of that. And there are programs out there. Mass Save is not probably your best option for windows, but if you are income qualified, the city also has a housing rehab loan program. That's something you could look into if, you know, windows and doors was really what you were wanting to do. And, you know, I think that's what we have a little bit more capacity to do now as a city, is try to connect all the dots for people on these things, right? How can you save energy by looking directly at your bill? Are you low income? Should you be on the discount utility rate? How can you save energy by updating your home to make it more comfortable and more efficient? Are there other things you need, right? Do you need your home to be, right, while you're at the table with me, if I'm talking to you about mass save and home energy efficient, I'm gonna also say, oh, well, you know, do you need your home to be more accessible? Do you need a walk-in shower? Let's also get you connected with the housing rehab program. So with that said, you know, we are hoping to we're planning to host an energy fair with that kind of philosophy in mind, of bringing resources together. And, you know, we'll have someone from community aggregation if you want to ask all your questions about that. We'll have someone from Mass Save. We'll have hopefully someone from Action Inc. And, you know, a lot of other local housing rehab loan program, hopefully a lot of other local organizations to kind of connect people with those resources.
When you have this fair, I'm gonna have a little suggestion that you have a like your sign right there with a QR code. Is that QR code that gets you that to the program?
It is, yes, that's the QR code.
Wait a second, I got an idea right here. All right, like look, you can pause this video when you're all done, and right there's your QR code right there. That right there, I promise you, will bring you right. You don't even have to remember the link. You just go right there, fire up your camera on your phone, and hit the link. All right, let's see if I can get you guys back into frame here. One thing I don't think we've mentioned, but I know we wanted to talk about, is the fuel assistance program. Could you explain that?
Yeah, so, well, there's a couple of different resources out there for folks. The main one I wanted to talk about is the discount rate, the National Grid discount rate that a lot of people benefit from. And the piece there to say is that it doesn't actually impact, right? So going on to the 11-cent rate, you still get that about 33% discount if you're on the discount utility rate with National Grid off of the total of your bill. So, you know, one thing I often hear from people is that they're worried that if they sign up for this program with Gloucester, right, who are they going to call if they have a power outage? You know, what is their bill going to look like? They've been with National Grid for years. And the thing is, National Grid still delivers that electricity, so you still get the same National Grid bill. You still call National Grid if there's a service issue, and the key piece to that is you still get the same discount if you are eligible for the discount utility rate on top of the total cost of the bill. So instead of getting a 33% discount on a bill that's based on a 33% energy rate, you're going to get one that's based on the 11 cent per kilowatt hour rate.
Is there anything for people that are for people that are struggling with oil and they have oil heat?
So that's the next piece. So Action Inc. is, you know, a really great local partner, and they are experts at this. They are really good at getting people connected with fuel assistance, which covers all of those different types of heating. And then they also work with folks who are low income to do energy services. So just like Mass Save is available to moderate and general income customers, for folks who are considered low income or income qualified is what they'd say, they have a program that goes even a little bit further in terms of you know, the coverage of those costs. In fact, I think pretty much whatever they recommend, they cover the cost to do those updates.
So how would people that in this category, how would they get in touch? Where would they call or go to find out about that?
Yeah, so it's actioninc.com is their website. I believe it's actioninc-fuel assistance for the fuel assistance program. So they'll usually get you on fuel assistance first, and if you're eligible for fuel assistance, then you're eligible for the energy services program, and they'll kind of send you over to there. So, you know, you can also find out on Action Inc's website what those income limits are, but definitely for people who fall into those income limits, and I think, you know, we talk about this all the time. We are in the Boston metro area. People don't realize those income limits are a lot higher than you think.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So
there's a lot of seniors. I mean, there's a lot of seniors that are on fixed income or low income, they don't have income. That in cold winter, it's important to make sure we take care of these people.
Exactly. And so I always recommend, even if you don't think of yourself as low income or moderate income, check the income limits and just see if you fall into that program. And there's also other programs that have slightly other income limits. So if you are, not falling into the program limits for the energy services through Action Inc., you might decide, hey, I want to connect with the city to look at the housing rehab program, and maybe you can, cover some of those costs, right? If your heating system fails in the winter, or if you need some accessibility updates to your home, or you need insulation, right? That's another program that could be available to help people with that. So,
there you go.
As I said, the Energy Fair, it's going to be April 13th at City Hall. If people can drop in between 4 and 7, we'll have lots of different tables with different organizations, and we'll be talking about all of those different resources.
Okay, make sure I get a press release on that, so we could post it in advance.
Sure.
I appreciate that. Anything else you guys want to add?
No, I think this program the aggregation program is a real success story. From the very beginning, one of the things that you can never claim is that you're going to guarantee savings, because energy markets are very volatile and fluctuate. National Grid changes their rates twice a year. There have been instances where our default rate was a little bit higher during the summer months, because sometimes that's the lower rate. But this winter surely seems to have demonstrated the advantage of having such a program.
$3.5 million in Gloucester residents and businesses' pockets. You can't argue with that logic right there. I'm going to bring up the camera one more time, because if you haven't, this is the link and this is the QR code right here. We're going to go to the link right there first, and the QR code that will get you right to the energy aggregation program through the city. And if you don't like money, don't do it. That's all I got to say. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.